where are you from? And I see that we have some colleagues registered from other parts of the world, and I'm sorry I don't have the image for them, but I hope it won't make bigger problems to them. Okay, so thank you everyone. And to start with, I would like to talk a little about this year, and despite the year has only just begun, we already have had some extreme weather events. And I would like to start with December, the last December of 2012, and that December was the coldest ever in Russia and Siberia region, and actually this cold period still lasts there, and this January they had my minimum temperatures below minus 50 degrees in Celsius. Also it was followed by really a heavy snowfall. And while Northern Hemisphere was dealing with real extreme cold, the Southern Hemisphere, Sydney in Australia, last Friday, 18th of January, had the hottest day ever with maximum temperature of plus 46 degrees in Celsius. So really extreme the weather and extreme differences. Also, I cannot mention heavy snowfall this January in Turkey, as well as snow in Middle East. And now I know that Vesa will show you another extreme weather event. So, Vesa, back to you.
Oh, thanks, Christina. I just want you can guess where is this image from. Maybe some of you understand this road signs, but this was also last week extreme event. It caused a lot of damage, a lot of problems. You can try. Not Malaysia, but you are quite near. Isolda, guess you are right, Isolda, it's Indonesia. This image is from Jakarta. And the photo has been taken by our colleague Afatri from the PMKG, the Indonesian Weather Geophysical and Meteorological Institute. And this was the day when there was a flooding. I think it was more like 30% of Jakarta was flooded, and it was major damage. I have had some look on the weather charts. I only have one weather chart that somehow helps us to understand. Even though this is a European weather briefing, it's healthy to have a look on the other parts of the world also at sometimes. And so this is, I think these are the streamlines of the wind. So what we see with Jakarta is here. We immediately can see that there's a lot of convergence of the wind at the area, at the region. So for me as a non-tropical meteorologist, this would just be maybe one sign of the likelihood of a lot of precipitation. Well, for that part of the world, the rain is always very intense, very heavy, and Jakarta is quite badly located, so they have always problems with the flooding. I give now the microphone back to Christina.
So, okay, step by step we get to the things which are closer to us, and of course it was this week's extreme weather in Western Europe. Actually, everything started already on Friday when, due to snowfall, flights have been disrupted at Heathrow Airport in Great Britain, and on Sunday already hundreds of flights were cancelled in Great Britain, France and Germany as snow and ice had blanketed Western Europe. And I know that Vesa, as you may see in chat box, he had his own personal experience because he was stuck in one of the airports. And here you can see my personal experience when I was walking to work in the morning on Monday, and on every surface you can imagine there were icicles like that, and everything was covered in snow, as you can see here on the right. So it was really nice winter, but of course it was dangerous as well. So what was the synoptic situation? So here we can see 21st of January, 6 UTC, and it's air mass RGB image overlaid with heights at 300. So And we can see that here we had over in northern Atlantic we had a center of low pressure and a drop, quite wide drop up to the Mediterranean region, up to Italy, and a small center of higher pressure over here in the Nordic Atlantic near to Scandinavia region. And if we also check what was with mean sea level pressure, again we can see that here over the Western Europe there were even some smaller scales, low pressure centers, and of course it was a frontal system. But as we can see, the bigger part of Europe was in a milder air mass with easterly flow, and of course it was nice and good conditions for freezing rain. So again, this is temperature adduction. As I have mentioned, we had only some relatively warmer air here, which was surrounded by cold air here and here. So, and in this case, I think we could check vertical cross sections, and we have chosen this red line, which starts here, the Northern Atlantic. It crosses Europe and ends here in the southern Poland, and here is the image of it, and I'll going back to this now.
Oh yes, thank you. I just wanted to show you how the cold air in the east is very nicely shown in the vertical cross sections, where you see these really tightly concentrated isotropes on the very lowest layers of the troposphere. So these stars are more or less in the eastern part of Europe, Poland, Czech, and eastern parts of Germany, whereas in the western part of the cross section, which now extends a little bit, let's say, a little bit southwest of the UK, so we see there the major feature in this image is when I want to look for the fronts is this one, this V-shaped form of the isotropes. So they indicate that there is a warmer air than in the surroundings in here, and that's a sign of an occlusion. But you also see that it's already detached from the ground, and it's not a very steep gradient in the isotropes any longer. But if you look at the location, it's more or less over London or in the southern parts of UK, if you compare it with the image on the right hand top here. So it's this is the occlusion cloud band in the satellite image, and this is how it is shown in the vertical cross section. So it's warm air aloft, and it's already cut out from the surface, and the most striking feature is this cold air lurking in from the east towards Central Europe. I can also show you one more, maybe more traditional way of looking at things, if it ever works. I was trying to show you okay, server is too busy to process your request. Please try again later. I hope you still are with me. I wanted to show you the sounding from the... okay, sorry, I didn't see it on my own, but if it happens to work on your screens, fine. There should be an animated GIF from the Wyoming University, 4 soundings. Well, because I can't see it, I can only point you that, for example, if you choose, you can play with those buttons on the bottom, so you can stop the animation. You can go to the Sunday afternoon, which is very typical for freezing rain, when you have a thick moist layer, and then you have this even a light, kind of a little tongue of warm above zero temperature, somewhere around 800 hectopascal, if I remember right, and then it's again freezing temperatures below. So that was maybe one of the most typical soundings I managed to find from that archive. Okay, I'll go back to slide 18, and I hope we are all back to the normal slides now.
Okay, so while Western Europe was dealing with snow and ice, winter was having fun in Northern Eastern Europe as well. And here we had people there was dealing with extreme cold, and what I would like you to pay attention on this image is this greenish color over here. And I just zoom a little bit so you can see how nicely greenish it is. And if I zoom even more, and we can see also nice temperatures here. It was almost minus 33 or minus 35, and here we can see that it was almost minus 37, and it's the case of 18th of January 00 UTC. And now if we go back a little forward in time, here I saw that there are some colleagues from Tallinn, Tatiana and Laura from Riga, so please correct me if I'm not right about these figures here. But I know for sure that in Lithuania on the 21st of January the minimum temperatures were in some places were from minus 25 up to minus 29. And if we check again air mass RGB, we can see again that it was really cold, and it's again this greenish color over here, southeastern part of Lithuania and some parts in Belarus. And it was the previous image, it was at 00 UTC, and if we go forward 6 hours, it's 6 UTC in the morning, and again this green color, it's still there. Maybe it's a little bit moved to the east of the Belarusian, but it's still here. And if we overlay this image with observations, I'm not sure if you can see it clearly, but I will tell that here in Lithuania it's minus 19 and minus 19 here in Belarus. But also I have another map from my colleagues in Lithuania. It's minimum temperatures of 21st of January at 6 UTC. And here you can see that it was minus 25 in city of Varėna, and also Lithuanians had minus 27 in city of Ukmergė. And the winner is city Kybartai with minus 29 here. So, and I would like to ask, maybe Zolda could make some comments or tell us more about the situation they were dealing, or maybe they are still dealing with.
I hope you can hear me. So in Lithuania and Baltic states, this stable situation with, as you mentioned, low temperatures due to influence of high pressure over Scandinavia have been prolonged for 1 week, since the 18th of January. Yes, you are right, Christina, and I'd like to pay your attention at very wide temperature differences, as you can see from this picture, between different Lithuanian regions. For instance, it could be much more warmer in the northern or eastern part than in southern part of the country. Usually there is inverted distribution. So moreover, minimal temperature in neighbor countries could be very different as well. As it happens, for instance, last night in Vilnius we had minus 9 degrees, 70 kilometers to the south, minus 19. From our point of view, the main reasons of this distinction are various cloudiness, microclimatical conditions during the windless situations, and increase there, and are getting to be very important feature. And of course, influence of the Baltic Sea at narrow region of the seaboard. I also would like to add and to say a few words about difficulties of to predict night temperatures. Main problems forecasters meet in this situation could be as follows: model errors in prediction of clouds, thus it means model errors of night temperature. Forecasters experience all week we have the same minus 10, minus 12 temperature at 850 hectopascals level, but temperature at the surface varies from minus 6 up to minus 29. usually model can't catch the right cloudiness. And now our Hirlam group is working on it and hope they find the reasons and solve the problem. This is the summary of this cold week. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you, Zolda, very much. Actually, I'm really happy I'm not in Lithuania now, because in Germany they say it's really cold when it's -10. So, okay, I started talking about this extreme cold in Northern Europe, and I was showing with this greenish color, which is also here. It's the image from yesterday's morning at 6 UTC. So now I would like to ask you, maybe there is someone who would like to explain why we see this greenish colors in regions where it's really, really cold. So is there any volunteer? Okay, so maybe I will proceed now. We have some guesses from Zolda. She says that's low surface temperatures, and this gives greenish colors on RGB. And David wonders if it was ground. Okay, so maybe I will try to explain, and I will try to give you all the answers. So, as we know, air mass RGB and green color beam comes from this difference from channel 9.7, which is ozone channel, and channel 10.8. And the difference between these two channels varies from -30 up to +5 kelvins. And on what does it depend? On which side we will have the difference? So mainly it depends on these 4 things, and I would like you to pay attention that it's cloud-free scenes. So when we have no clouds, the brightest temperature between channel 9.7 and 10.8 depends on temperature difference between temperature of ozone and temperature of surface, total ozone concentration, satellite viewing angle, and emissivity of surface at 9.7 and 10.8. And in our case, the main factor why we had greenish colors and was this one. You can see it here. It was temperature difference between temperature of ozone and temperature of surface. So why I'm saying this? So we have this difference here, and let's say that temperature of ozone is around -50 degrees in Celsius. And then we have a really low temperatures of surfaces, and this means that this part of the difference, the right part, well, it's the temperature, it's, let's say, about -30 or even 40 or even lower. So what is the result? And the result we have here, it is around 0, or maybe even sometimes it is positive. And this is what gives that greenish color in air mass RGB. So it means that it was really low temperatures of surfaces, and it was cloud-free scenes. So going back again to air mass RGB, and again it's the same image, 6 UTC of yesterday's morning, and maybe now it's time to talk about today's weather, and later we will check, I think, if this greenish color is still there. So back to you, Vesa.
Thank you, Christina. Because I'm a bit cautious now to show any animations, they might not run, and so I want to save the system a little bit. I try to just show the one still image of the recent satellite. This was the recent one I managed to grab before the session, so it's 08 UTC this morning, air mass image. And just looking very quickly, I see that there are some points, the areas with a lot of precipitation, as already Victoria mentioned. In Athens it's rainy, it's 15 degrees, and we see the whole of southeastern part of Europe is now under the frontal rain. Also some rain, but not so much, is over here. What also catches my attention is this nice reddish thing coming from the rear of the cyclone. So I don't know if this cyclone here is developing or not, but at least there are some dynamics behind it, so that's something I would like to keep an eye on. Then, well, otherwise, the northern and the central parts of Europe in weather-wise is rather boring today. Not much clouds, some low clouds, of course, that they are not so well seen in this image. But this is the current situation in Europe, and I think I could also maybe just give the next slide back to Christina. So Christina, please go ahead.
Okay, so it's the EMAS RGB image of today's morning. It's at 6 UTC overlaid with heights at 300s, and so what we can see here that we over the Atlantic there is a ridge and a frontal system, and a wide trough up to Mediterranean over Europe, and so nothing interesting as I said in the bigger part of Europe, except maybe Mediterranean region and well some gradients over here in Spain. And I was talking about that greenish color, so we can't see it anymore over here, but I see that there is some still greenish things over in Norway over here, and if I zoom a little bit, so yeah, it has some greenish color, and I have checked the synop observations. And yes, in this where it's greenish, it was -21, while in surrounding region it was -14, -12. So back to all the continent. Here we can see it's also the EMAS RGB image overlaid with mean sea level pressure. So we had this deep low pressure center over here in the northern Atlantic, and a small maybe an area of higher pressure here on the Scandinavia region, and low pressure over here in Mediterranean region. And if we overlay it with isotax, so again not much movement over the central and Europe, maybe here in the Western Europe where this ridge is approaching, and we can see here some isotax running. And if we check temperature advection at 700 again, so pretty much silent in the Europe here. It's still some cold coming to the northern Europe, and warm air coming here, and it's approaching Western Europe and British Isles. And maybe just one more image, it's infrared, and well, maybe there's something interesting to you, so you could point and maybe we could discuss it. Just use a star or other tool.
Yeah, just point to star if there's a specific point that you want to discuss, or if you have some forecasting challenge today particularly. For us it of course is always dangerous to say that there is nothing interesting going on. I remember last month we had this word that there's nothing interesting going on, and there were really some bad things happening in some places. So there I see one star in the top of the map in Greenland. That's, by the way, the system of on the just you see that cloud spiral on the top of the map in the just on the southern tip of Greenland, where the pressure level pressure center is at the moment. Low pressure center is at the moment. I can show you in a moment after this briefing how the ECNWF sees the development in the next few days. But this is one that's going to develop quite a bit. Massimo mentions about yesterday thunderstorm near Venice. So it must have been part of this bigger system. I think also there were still some warnings. Maybe Christina can tell about those warnings later, but there were some warnings for thundery weather still in some parts of the southern Europe. it's the convective season is somehow over for the most part of the Europe, but still in the south and in the Mediterranean it goes on. It's the rainy season there. You don't how often, Massimo, do you have thunder in January? Maybe it's even for you it's not that often happening.
So now we can check what was the meteor alarm information. It's image from today's morning, and well, it's green northern Europe here, and something is going on in Germany, and we see that it's temperature and snow and fog, and again temperature it's about -10, and some things in France, so it's big waves, I guess, and Spain. What Spain? Oh, we have even some maybe snow in Spain and windy. Yeah, I have mentioned that there were some gradients over Spain, and so they are waiting for windy day. And in Italy, they're waiting for some even thunderstorms and rain. So, and maybe you will have some more comments now about.
Yeah, just to, I'm looking at the Victoria's comment on the west of West Greece. As you point, there are the rain warnings there, and I was still looking at the Spain and how it's how these warnings here they might be connected to that cloud we saw and this cyclone rear side heavy winds and the waves that may. I didn't look more in detail about Spain. We may have Jose's from Spain, but he may comment on this in the text chat box if I'm wrong. Otherwise, yeah, you see, Scandinavia. We didn't talk about Scandinavia, but it's green today. There's nothing. It's just one rather boring winter day with a rather -degrees, of course, but nothing dramatic there. I can show you, if Christina, are you okay? I can just show you the ECMWF forecasts for the upcoming weekend. This is now the forecast for this afternoon. So the one system we were talking about is here in the southern tip of the Greenland. That's, or it looks rather deep. Center pressure something like 9. Oh, I have to clear this one up. What's it? 945 is the center pressure, and we see this heavy rain over the Mediterranean, especially as Victoria said on the western side of the Greece seems to be intense. And then the next day, tomorrow afternoon, I just step every 24 hours to be quick. So we see there's something new developing here in the center parts of the Atlantic. More rain coming to UK, and still the same rainy conditions would prevail in the southeastern part of Mediterranean. Whereas in the central parts of Europe, it's gonna be a rather nice day. Maybe we should maybe expect some local fog in the morning at least. In the lowland areas for sure, and maybe the coldest air will be somewhere in this axis from Ukraine towards the central parts of Europe, -10. So that's the cold warnings. And then on Saturday, there's this new system deepening more. I don't even see how much there are. What's the center pressure? But it looks like 930, 940. It's extremely low, at least in this forecast. And the central, the high pressure in the central Europe moves slowly towards the east. Jose says about the Spain alarm: strong northwesterly winds and waves 3 meters height and 15 centimeters of snow. I think, Jose, that these are referring to the Mediterranean part of Spanish coast. And then the Sunday is here. So again, lots of rain, lots of wind coming to the UK and to the western part of Europe. And so there will be kind of a season change for us also here in Germany now, coming up when this frontal area will approach. But until then, it looks rather good. And for the southeastern part of Europe, the unstable air still is there, but it seems that it might be easing up a little bit next week. That's all from me. Was it all from you, Christina? We'll still have some final words and final promotions, but sorry, Jose was correcting me that it's actually the Biscay Gulf that has the warnings for the moment. So I don't have the actual map, but well, Biscay Gulf is tricky one always. So the warnings are for this part here. If you have anything to comment on the current weather today and for the weekend, you can do it now. Andreas has his hand up, so please go ahead, Andreas.
Yeah, thank you, Weser. Andreas Wirth from ZAMK Vienna. I do not want to comment the present weather situation, but I would like to comment what Isolda said about the cold temperatures over Lithuania. And she also mentioned that the HIRLAM model has problems resolving the very cold situation on the ground. And that reminds me an email I got from one of our meteorologists who were on duty on the 10th of January, and he reported a situation which concerns a prognostic for Bregenz. This is a small town in the western part of Austria near the Swiss border, and he reports about temperature prediction 48 hours ahead for the night. And the model said for the 2-meter temperature that it would have in the night minus 18 degrees, and in the 500-meter height minus 3 degrees. That means the model predicted a very strong temperature inversion 48 hours ahead. But in fact, the real measured temperatures, not only in Bregenz but also in the surrounding stations, show temperature about minus 9 or minus 10 degrees. So there was a failure of 8 to 9 degrees, which is very, very strong. And he reported in his email that this happens a few times every winter when there's a strong thermal inversion. And this is the model he uses was the ECMWF model. And his first thought was the model is correct, but the post-processing at ZAMK is not correct. But then he looked in the primer fields we got from ECMWF, and there also the strong temperature inversion was in the data. So it was not post-processing; it was really in the ECMWF data. So I just wanted to report that because Isolde mentioned that this problem for the HIRLAM model, but it seems to be a general problem, not only for HIRLAM, but also for ECMWF. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Andreas. This was a good comment. Did you mean that the model was forecasting warmer or colder? Sorry, I missed that part.
The model was forecasting extreme temperature inversions. The model was forecasting minus 18 degrees, and in reality, they were measured only minus 10. So the model was 8 to 9 degrees colder than reality.
Oh, that's I normally expect the models to be not predicting the inversion well enough, but in this case it was even extremely cold. Okay, that was interesting to hear. Thanks, Andreas. Because the time is running, we'll probably now move to the final part. So, Christina, you maybe perhaps take over now and send the final slides.
Yes, so I would like to thank all of you for your attention, and first thing I would like to remind you that next weather briefing will be held on Tuesday, 19th of February, and after this briefing will be over, you will get a window in a browser where you will be able to register to it. And another really important thing that from 4th to 8th of February we will have a EUMeTrain precipitation week, and you will be able to register to this event after this briefing is over. So, and that's about all what we wanted to say and to discuss with you. Thanks again to all of you.
Thank you also from me. And see you in February. Bye-bye.